Hello, I'm going to deliver a presentation on how to try and integrate the principle of no net land take within the current master plan. This current master plan is being reorganized, and this is the master plan is referred to as the PGAT. So you know what I'm talking about. What I am referred to where at a PGAT acronym. Now, I suggest for me to skim over the definition of land take artificialisation du sol, as our previous speakers have already provided us with definitions that seems to me to be most appropriate. Now, I would just like to recall that the focus should really be about the land take and the no-net land take aims at concentrating and how buildings on already built sites and areas. I'd like to focus now on Luxembourg and Luxembourg's specificity. Compared with other European countries, Luxembourg's growth has been extremely significant on extremely constrained territory. For those of you who've been to Luxembourg, you know that the growth of Luxembourg is similar to some of the metropolitan regions, and I'll show you how that the growth is spread throughout and impacts the whole of Luxembourg. We don't have any quiet areas like in some regions in France, so it is therefore very difficult for us to meet no net land take objectives compared to other countries as a result of these overwhelming growth. And so growth is everywhere across Luxembourg territory, and this growth poses a number of issues in terms of infrastructures, in terms of water and facilities, in terms of schools, and very often we've reached the limits of capacities, and on top of that, when it comes to applying land use planning, and I think we could attain more easily no-net land take objectives, but this wouldn't be in a honest way of attaining these objectives, because development happens in on a more limited scale. Okay, so again, we're referring to the small size of Luxembourg. So very often we talk about dynamic land take, and the net dynamic is about the gross land take dynamic minus the renaturation dynamics. And if we compare figures from the period 2007-2018, we have 200 hectares of gross net land take as consumed, and under 200 hectares throughout the same period that has been given back to nature, so renatured. And for this is the surface area for urban and transport area. So 1,800 hectares, that's 0.46 hectares per day for a land take, which can be rounded up to 0.5 hectares per day. And the land take dynamic of the soils depends on agricultural surfaces, forests, and natural areas. So with a minus 1,600 hectares for agricultural surfaces, but quarries, significant. So the unused land returned to cultivation or renaturalized is on a temporary basis in the example of quarries. Now, and as in this example, so on the left-hand side, you have a map of Luxembourg on the land. So reflecting the land take, which is really distributed across the whole of the countries. North-south, south of the country, the dynamic is a bit more significant. We can see north and eastern part, even rural areas, really deeply impacted as well. And on the right-hand side, you can see that the land take is first and foremost for the purpose of residential housing, as well as the retail industries. So this growth is extremely linked to the economic development of the country. In Luxembourg, our major issue, as has been described earlier for the Flemish area, we do have a similar issue in Luxembourg, and this is about the number of areas reserved, earmarked for municipalities and for a state at state level. So in fact, we're talking about lands that have been allocated to buildings, so economic activities areas as well as housing areas, which in Luxembourg, where the potential is still significant. And this is, for the coming years as well. Before deep diving into these areas deemed as designation of land and property, and is very much protected, which means that the reclassification in non-building areas, non-building land, is extremely difficult. So, laws that have been earmarked require significant compensation. So neither the municipalities nor the state can provide compensations as required, because these requirements are very, very high. And as in the Flemish areas, buildable areas date back to the 70s and 80s, and these areas have been widely extended to accommodate significant housing development. And today, still, extension of the buildable areas is difficult to turn down unless there's a significant impact on the environment. In Luxembourg, we've developed a tool referred to as a Raum Plus, identifying the buildable areas on the local municipality master plans and within the general master plans, focusing on buildable areas. And here in this one, we have noted an availability of over 5,000 hectares spread across 14,515 surface areas within 89 municipalities, 64% in housing areas, 10% in mixed areas, so housing and commercial activities, and 15% spread in industrial and commercial areas. So these reserves, if we looked at them more closely, we realized that we have an availability in areas suitable for building of 442,000 housing units, so potential to accommodate 325,000 new inhabitants in Luxembourg, which is a growth that would allow to accommodate populations for the next 26 years. And the problem in Luxembourg is that most of these real estate potential is not located in the areas we'd like to develop, so in urban areas, but to the opposite, quite the opposite, in municipalities that we would refer to as endogenous, where development should be moderated. And when we look at these more closely, we realize the potential of real estate reserves will allow to meet demands for the next 70 years. So municipalities are not the only culprits. The state as well has earmarked significant services through the sectorial master plans. We have 4 of these in 4 different domains. And landscape-wise, the transport, areas deemed for economic activities, and housing. So deep diving into the P is SZAE, a master plan for economic activities, marking over 1,000 hectares for existing economic activities, of which 200 hectares for areas still not taken, and 455 hectares of new areas, of which majority has not been built upon yet, and which has not been classified in the general municipality master plans, the PAGs. And then we have the housing master plan, the PSL. So in this master plan, 480 hectares have been earmarked, put aside, of which 50 hectares are not yet part of the municipality master plan, or not classified in housing areas or areas deemed for areas suitable for building, and of which 480 hectares, nearly half of the 210 hectares, have already been taken, i.e. urbanized. So beyond the potential earmarked in the municipalities master plans, the state has put an extra layer and for other surface areas. So which poses a significant issues in the future measures. Vidal has announced these at the start of our discussions within the territorial master plan. We run an international consultation process, Luxembourg in Transition, and which is an international interdisciplinary consultation process identifying strategies likely to deliver environmental transition by 2050 for the functional area of Luxembourg, which is about the functional territory of Luxembourg, which is the main areas of provenance of people of cross-border populations without which Luxembourg cannot operate. And amongst these shortlisted projects, all insist on the land use, enhancing the multifunctionalities, densification of urbanized spaces, as well as reduction of consuming of soils, and which shows yet again the absolute necessity to put in place the non-Atlantic. I'll skim over the 4 shortlisted projects just to illustrate a bit the way they worked. And if that's of interest to you, if you want to know more about these, the www.luxembourg in transition website will provide you all the data.com will provide you with all the insights, information that might be of interest to you. On top of this, following on to my brief presentation, Mrs. Marich, who is part of the team, the University Projects in Luxembourg, will present some of the aspects in details. Thank you.
So we'll start with the University of Luxembourg that has undertaken a project where they propose the transformation of a big commercial area, as you may see on the photograph. And basically, their idea was to have an urban area for men and not for cars. So a reuse of the surface area for human beings. So this is what they propose after having removed the cars and having densified and made the area multifunctional. There's the MVRDV project that doesn't only insist on densification, but also on the diversification of different districts to strengthen local communities. And they recommend the reuse of surfaces. They talk about the upgrade of performance of the reuse of surfaces, putting additional stories and using roofs for other functions. The Arab team, AREP, produced a scenario on the basis of a zero land take, which imposes that all new buildings be made on already taken land. So they go even further than a no net land take. And they talk about reinvesting or reusing the existing building legacy. So a household of 4 people, once children leave, the household may, settle down in a smaller dwelling. There are different scenarios that make it possible to intensify the densification. And the 2001 team proposed a very interesting tool that would allow to solve one of the major problems in Luxembourg, that is the booking of building potential outside of building areas through an instrument that they've called TDR, Threshold Development Rights. So the idea is to have rights to develop granted from the from the outside of the urban area to the inside. So to release from urban pressure land that has not been taken yet and intensify densification. So let me get back to the Luxembourg background and the issues we've got in the implementation of no net land take in Luxembourg. So those limits are in the hands of sectoral policies and communal land use planning. So because of the areas booked by the different sectorial policies, and there's the issue of the autonomy of municipalities and the protection of rights of ownership. That's very difficult to avoid. And just like Antoine Covelli, it said it is important to implement an intersectorial approach. So all different sectors have got to work hand in hand to allow for the implementation of no net land take. So what we are proposing to do in the framework of the master program, which is a political instrument, we propose to have 2 different time periods. The first until 2035 and the other one 2050, where we would aim at land take of 0.25 hectares a day instead of 0.46 today, and after 2050 to aim at 0 hectare a day. So a reduction of land take to be implemented as from now, in fact. So that's for me. That's all from me. regarding this issue of no net land take in Luxembourg. Thank you for your attention.